Welcome back to episode 23 of our deep dive into Heaven's Vault. Last episode we talked about technical stuff, and I mentioned that you want your story to try and keep the player moving forward. You want them to keep pulling in other context so the player's always excited for the next big thing. And I neglected to mention that that's one big thing that you can do with your minigames. Your minigames can back up where the player is going. They can make the player excited about wherever they're going to go next. They can remind the player of the reasons why these places are important. So here we're trying to interpret some words, and these words are found directly along the path to Amadou's observatory. So what have we got here? What are we trying to interpret? Sail fast and free, and never stop. Sounds good to me, right? This is a generic sailing proverb. It's not enough to make me excited about Amadou's specific location or anything like that, even though it's located specifically on the path, and it's supposed to help us find the location that we're going. Because of that, I think it's a wasted opportunity. It could be much more interesting as long as it was created specifically to remind the player that there is a reason to go the way that they're trying to go. You don't have to have it all be dialogue. If we need the Geth to be advancing, if we need the player to be thinking about the Geth, then we can always bring up the Geth instead of having a plot point. We can have us discover a Geth piece of ruin or an ancient writing from Tali's people that mentions them. We don't have to have a scripted Geth-specific event with dialogue and anything like that. We can just go ahead and bring it up whenever we need to bring it up. And that's one of the great powers of a context engine. We can just bring up contexts as we need them. The context engine knows what context you're on. It knows how far you've gone down various paths. It knows what you know. So just have it, by understanding that, bring up the things that you'll need. Oh wow, you're a little bit late there. Fortunately, I read the map. So now we're done talking technical stuff for the minute or two here. Let's go ahead and land on this observatory and see what's up. Also, I figured out what was clattering. Apparently my computer vibrates against the floor just hard enough to cause a random thing or across the room to vibrate harmonically. So it's like buzzing.
This moon was nothing but cold, cruel rock.
We've seen a lot of those on this playthrough.
It could never have been home to anyone. And yet, someone had been here. And someone was still standing guard.
The Sky God? So we have finally discovered this thing that's been teased since the very beginning of our story. Where do we want to go next? Well, we could always go and find out the thing that we heard from a guy that heard from a guy that heard from a guy that might be an observatory. It's not really an amazing lead, and not a very exciting one, but the only other option was to go back in time and learn where the god statues were being crafted from. That also doesn't seem particularly compelling, but since we know that Renbu, the guy we're looking for, Janiqui, since we know that he was, since we know that he was interested in some kind of observatory to the point where he was obsessed with it and was absolutely fanatically interested in finding it before it destroyed everybody, that gives us some sort of power here. We've got to find what he's looking for because he cares so much, and that's a very basic trick. If you have someone in the game that cares a whole lot, then the player is allowed to care a whole lot. Unfortunately, this is really a playthrough where we don't talk to very many people, so we don't have a whole bunch of places that people care about because we don't have a whole bunch of people.
Ended, at the edge of an enormous crater, where a mountain had been plucked out like a rotten tooth, and something had been built across the wound.
It's not that big. So here we are in what was presumably an observatory. Why is he telling me it's a hole? See, this is one of the problems. I can't tell whether or not the context engine is on a different wavelength than me, or if they're trying to tell me that he can't see the thing that's on the hole. But he can. He just for some reason was insisting it's still a hole, even though what I was really wanting to know is, what is this material? Why is it here? Where did it come from? All right, exciting. So one of the things I love about this particular location is how real the construction is. They clearly looked at parabolic dishes and heavy rigs in reality, because this is 100% how they feel when we are looking at the understructure of that sort of thing. So even though on the surface this looks like, Death Star science fiction, the underpinnings would look really good to me. So we are learning an interesting fact that apparently there's a gravitational anomaly here in the center of this hole, which is certainly fascinating, especially since we don't know anything about it. The question becomes, do we want to go down into that hole first or go over to that building first? And the answer is, we go over into our files, we make a copy of our Heaven's Vault save, and we name it Heaven's Vault Save, Episode 23, Pre-Hole. That way, we can do both. Normally, I'd try and look around, but that hasn't been happening very often in terms of finding random stuff in the corners. I think that gets less common as you move through the game. Or maybe you don't.
The metal ledge halfway down was wide enough for walking.
It could also be that I found enough toys that the game doesn't want to give me any, so it's disabling all of the random stuff.
Wide enough for robots too.
Bringing up the fact that it's wide enough for robots is a great way to talk about the fact that robots are important to nearly all of the operations of this ancient world. There's something fascinating going on that involves robots, and we still don't know enough about it to have a strong opinion on it, even though we know the secret of the robots. So that's another, I wouldn't call it a missed opportunity, but if I had been writing it, one of the things I would have brought up is, what were the robots used for on the ancient worlds? Get me interested. Why, the robots are central to how this world is set up, how this universe worked in the previous era. And if I am curious about it, and then I find out that the robots, were people, then I'm like, okay, so these people basically pulled a cyberpunk, and they enslaved their population, their dying population. to do the hard work that was needed to do, to maintain things for longer than a human could maintain things. All of those kinds of details are could have made the twist much more interesting. But for right now, we have discovered a new trick in the physics of this game. Until now, there was never any sort of hint that there were gravitational mechanisms. There's nothing that no sort of hint that we were going to find any sort of new space magic. But here is some more space magic, and it's going to be fun to try and figure out what that means. Well, there's a me, Mario. Yeah, we kind of figured that out. So, me and B and we. That doesn't seem right. I guess it is. And here. Oh, maybe instead of myself, it's a here. Site. That doesn't seem right. We'll see. Welcome. So we've got most of this down, but it's not... These first elements are not behaving very well, which implies that either it's a does cite something and here, or that I've gotten some of these words wrong. Let's go ahead and... There we are. Hooray, we learned a new word. So here we've got something that's fields related and some mountains related, or vice versa. I can never remember which is which. So land here and be welcome. What do you think? This is a launch platform. Far as I can tell. See, this is interesting. The idea that the robots have roles and have powers that don't make any sense and stuff like that. This if it had been brought up in the correct order, then understanding that the robots were people would have packed a lot of punch. But unfortunately, we never really learned that. We never got a chance. And that could be because the context got activated in the wrong order because of the way I played the game. But you know what? The contexts shouldn't be able to be activated in an uninteresting order. The contexts should have locks on them so that regardless of how I prefer to play the game, then they will still remain interesting and emotionally relevant.
The scale of the place was mind-boggling.
Clearly they had thought it was going to be a
must
bigger
have been
model than
built
it was.
By giants for giants.
Because it doesn't really feel that mind-boggling. It feels like it might be the right size for my ship, but not for anything huge. Presumably this is where the Sky Goddess came to launch. Let's look around the back. Hey, look, it's a lizard. If I eat it, will my grab bar increase? Nothing back here. I need to stop looking back for stuff, but it's just like the first time I played it, I didn't do any of that. And then the second time, I found a whole bunch of random stuff that was invisible until I walked up on top of it. So, well, whatever. This is cute. They've got these shutters, and then they've got the domed windows that you sort of expect to see in the sort of Middle Eastern environments that we've been seeing recently. But they've got these harsh square blinds across them. It's a cool little, just a topological, just a visual thing that is cute to me. I like it. Shard of a blade, huh? Yeah, okay, fine. Use your snazzy button. This is really the first time we've seen something high-tech. Aside from the robots. Everything else has been like
dark,
magic.
Cramped space. Stuffed with metal and pipes and wires. It was like I turned into an ant and was now crawling around inside the robot.
I like the difference in terms of this place being so obviously from a different group of people than the Empire, who that was worshiping ancient mud statues and turning people into robots via teleportation. This is a much more, sci-fi 60s style event. Clearly, though, it's not an observatory. This is clearly a landing pad. It's clearly an airspace or robots. Now this is a heck of a line of text. Jeez. All right, so let's try and figure this. Oh, wow. We didn't even get a chance to fill anything out. Brutal. We probably don't even have enough words to figure this out. So this is... So if this is masters, then this is clearly master. Or masters without an apostrophe. And then this is close to it's like light and go, so fly, I would guess. And then here is not up. Let's back up a little bit here. So if we say of masters we fly, that doesn't seem right. So if this is only, or no, let's say this is by order of masters, we fly after. That doesn't seem right. I bet this is wrong. But that's fine, though. It could also be left afterwards, like they got abandoned, so they left. Also, my making that word master might just be an old mistake. Sometimes when I play these games for the first time, I get some stuff stuck in my head and it doesn't come loose even though it's wrong. Are you going to activate anytime here? Here we are. I'm not asking if you're a plumber. I'm asking if you're an electrician. There's a huge difference. Oh, what was that? Oh. Okay. We would. There's like a bright open door right there. Even if it doesn't work, all we have to do is crawl out of one of these giant friggin' windows. Hey, look, a telescope. Why flies? Why not bees? Well. We have a brass telescope. Maybe we'll try fitting our telescope onto it. Gosh, given the camera angle pointed straight at another telescope. Presumably it was a telescope. So this is another situation where I'm not sure whether or not they meant to do this, but this is clearly not positioned for a robot. Because robots would have it much lower, so they wouldn't have to, like, levitate to put their eye in the socket. Similarly, robots probably have another means of access. So basically, at this point, we are discovering a pre-Empire site, a really old site. This place is older than the first gods. It's older, the first Empress. It's older than all of the other places we've been so far. This is not an observatory. So chances are pretty high that I could have found an eyepiece somewhere. And I didn't. But alas, nothing I can do about it. Look at all that sky. So let's take a look. What have we got? We got some stars, or we got some treasure. In this case, though, I'm tempted to think it's more stars than treasure. But we don't really have... There's fly, and we're going to know whether it's treasure right now. Yeah, it's not treasure, it's stars. No, it's not fly. Oh well, it's fine. Could be watch. Yeah, watch makes sense. Watch distant stars. In which case the interior line wasn't fly after the masters, but watch after the masters. So we found another arabesque foil inside this telescope. Is it for sending messages, or is it for re-echoing those teleporter elements? All right, so we just found a moon way, way out in the cosmos somewhere. Here, I guess. We're now looking down over the edge to interpret another line of text. There's some sail. There's some and. There's some be. And there's some free. So we got a freebie word here. That one was too easy. Oh well. The fact that we are so sure it's a landing bay makes it doubly annoying whenever Roy says, "Was this an observatory?" No, it's clearly a landing bay. But, it could be both. They never bring that up. One of the issues I've got, though, is that Roy is never allowed to realize anything that would be obvious to even, basic players. Even children would understand things like, oh, the robots are people. Well, Roy isn't allowed to figure that out yet, but we are. We could also reach down and press the button. I'm not sure why. Oh no, we're trapped. How are we ever going to get out? If only there were giant windows. So now that we've gotten rid of the robot, it's our chance to do things without him, but unfortunately there's nothing in here worth doing without him. That was kind of silly. It's fine. He jumped off the roof because apparently he can jump off the roof, but we can't. Okay, if you say so. Looking a little bit beat up there. So we activated something. Hooray! We activated something on the control panel, but we have no idea what it was. It was probably that door up there, but it's something where we can't really tell. What we can do is go back down and see whether anything down here has changed. I think that I've forgotten something. We can go up and visit that god statue. We'll see whether or not that is viable. Thanks for that. So you can see that we do have the option to not go. We're not saying stop bugging us, so there's more to do here. The question is how? I guess our next step would be to just kind of comb the area and try and find more things to talk about. You might be able to hear me clicking. I still haven't told this robot about the observatory. So he has no idea why we're here. Stop talking about it. The robot doesn't understand. Let's go visit the goddess statue, or the god statue, see whether or not they have any advice for us. I can't... It wasn't observing anything. I mean, technically it might have been. There's no reason you can't be two things at once. Alright, let's see what's been carved onto God's butt. Let me guess, Sky God. Serpent God. A serpent's eye. Guess what? This is the place... this is the serpent's eye, apparently. That doesn't feel right, does it? Serpent's eye. So I had previously said that the gems on the Sky Goddess came from the Cyclone's eye, but here, apparently this is the serpent's eye it was talking about. Not the Cyclone, not the eye of the Cyclone, but this. What's a serpent's eye? I don't believe the context engine has a version of this that takes into account that we may have already found the Sky Goddess, because you're supposed to do this fairly early on, whereas the Sky Goddess is the fifth in the chain. So I think that that there won't be a thing where we understand that the Sky Goddess came here for gems. Unfortunately, that didn't help us get down into the pit. So I'm not sure whether it's possible to go down there. I don't think I went down there the first time I played the game. I certainly don't remember this place being very interesting at the time. Well, I mean, if somebody tells me that they went down there and it was just the coolest thing ever, then I will go down there. But until then, I think we're going to call the episode here. Feel free to let me know if you know how to get down into the pit and I just am an idiot. I'll do a little bit more off-screen meanderings to try and figure it out. But for now, that's probably enough.